Scrapbookers and creative friends. I'm Linda Patouk. I'm a Creative Memories Independent Advisor in Jupiter, Florida. Welcome to Thursday Thoughts. And today I'm going to do a little bit of show and tell, but mostly I want to talk about my thoughts about the importance of what we do as family historians. When our daughter was born in 1988, and when I was, pregnant with her, one of my co-teachers gave me this little plaque, which I have cherished, and it hangs up. I just took it off the wall over here in my office, but I have cherished this, and it became my mantra. There are only two lasting bequests that we can give to our children. One is roots, and the other's wings. This was by Hooding Carter. I've seen this quoted a little bit differently, but in any case, roots and wings are what I want to talk about today, because it is very important that not only we ourselves understand our background and our history, but we need to also create that history for our children. And one of the ways we can do that is with our albums. Now, that was my mantra, not only in my personal life, but also in my professional life and with my students, because you want to have a feeling of belonging. We all do. And it's kind of nice when we're creating these albums. Not only are we assuring that this history is written down, but we're also sharing that with them and giving them a chance to reflect and to look back at what's important. So I'm going to show you just a couple of different things that I've done, and you may have already done the same thing, or you may have been wondering how you could document some of these things. So I'm just literally going to share my thoughts and show you a few pages from albums and so forth that I have created. Let's take a look. Now, I want to start with this one. This is an old CM album, and I created this one when these 8.5 by 11 were still available. They aren't any longer. But this was kind of an aha moment for me with our family, with my family, my brothers, and my nephews and everyone, because we were visiting my parents. They lived in Okeechobee, Florida. They moved from Miami to Okeechobee when my dad retired, and we were there visiting, just having a family day. And we went out into my dad's shed, and there was a box there, and he said, "Oh yeah, I wanted to show you this." There was a box with hundreds of photographs. Much to my horror, as I wrote here, much to my horror, I discovered that box of photographs still out in the unair-conditioned shed. My dad had forgotten to bring them into the house. So we brought in this rather large cardboard box and began to open it right where we stood. Now, I've documented that story because that was a moment for all of us. All my brothers and sister-in-law and my kids were there. We sat right on that kitchen floor, and what treasures we found in that box. Not only photos of our grandparents, great-grandparents, aunts, uncles, and parents, but it also still had many of the school projects that my brothers and I had done when we were in school. We really had a good time with that. It was really fun. But right then and there, I said, I asked for permission to just take those pictures and all the photographs and all the memorabilia to my air-conditioned house and get them out of that shed. And then we scheduled a family cropping session. And so what we mostly did was we organized the photos. And I've documented all of that here. And that was a really important moment for our family. That was something I wanted to do. So I put it as the title, or the journal opening for this album, because this was in June 2001, and I decided, we went through and we got all these wonderful pictures of my dad, and they weren't in an album. A lot of this handwriting you see was on the back of the photos. So what I did to preserve that, my dad's writing, what I did was I made a photocopy of that, and then this was Creative Memories paper that was available at the time. But you notice that it's not touching, even if it wasn't CM paper, it's not touching the photographs at all. So I wanted to create this album about my dad, and I gave it to him, hoping that he would write stories and whatever. But there's a lot of these soldiers. This was World War II. I am not a spring chicken, so he was in World War II. So not only was he was a tank commander, but he also was in a band. We're very musical in our family as well. So I have pictures of him in the band when he was in Hawaii. All of these are treasures for our family that we wouldn't have had. They were out in that shed. Very important things. And of course, I didn't know any of these people except my dad. So I used their, whatever he wrote on the stories. And this is something that we will treasure. I know my grandfather, his father, was a great photographer. He had a wonderful camera. I still have that camera. And he took a picture taking was a family pastime. So I have a picture of my dad taking a picture of his dad taking a picture of him just for fun. And I used all of these pictures. You can see they were all different sizes, overlapped them and so forth. But I now have a record of that for our family history. And I had to put this story in here. I tore paper to make it look like lettuce because every meal, but I wrote this quick little story. This is probably the one thing that Linda, Michael, John, and Jim shall always remember about our Army dad. Hardly a family meal was shared that we didn't hear these words. Ever since I was in the service, I've never been able to get enough lettuce. Dad didn't really tell us any stories about being in the Army, but we know that he never had fresh lettuce. So I just wrote fresh, green, leafy, crunchy, juicy lettuce all the way around the edge there. This was something that our family will always remember, and now our children know how important that was. Little things like this that are part of who we are. We all love fresh lettuce and we love salads. So that, to me, that was very important for us to do that. Now that's one, and that's really my roots. But then let me show you what I did for one of the examples of things I did for our children. So again, this is an older album, 8x10, which is not available anymore. The 8x10 pages are available, but not the actual album. So I made this. Eric was born in 1984, but I made this for him on his. I wrote the story here. I'm writing this to you. I wrote a letter, and I did this for all of the kids. 8x10 page, and I just put their photographs, school photos. I have them all in here all the way as they grow up and go off and join the Navy. They have those roots and they use those wings and they go off. But I did write a story to each one of the children, talking about them and things that I loved about them. And they are going to enjoy going back and reading that forever. And of course I signed it for them. So I did that with all three of the kids. You could do it with an 8x8 album. You could do it with a 12x12. This was kind of easy because I could just drop these. These were drop-in pockets that we had. So we could just drop those pictures in there. They no longer make those pages, but we have similar pages. We do have 8.5x11 pages. So that is something that I know they treasure. This one, our daughter is a wonderful photographer, but we didn't know she had that gift until she got to high school. This was her first digital photograph that she took. It was this oleander plant in our backyard where we used to, one of the developments we used to live in, called Cypress Trails. And this was her first picture, and it was breathtaking, this first digital picture that she took. So what I ended up doing was in this album, I combined her photos and my digital photos as well. Hers are always better, but but she ended up using some of these in her photography class, which she ended up taking in high school, and who knew she had that gift. I had a friend who was an artist also and sketched our house. He took out some of the plants though, but that's okay. You can see the house better. And then, I have my little, these are a couple of mine, my little friends, the bird feeders. Yes. But, it's important to me to have bird feeders, and I just love wildlife. So that's what I did. And this was one of my highlight moments. And my kids know how I am about wildlife. Serendipitous moment. I walked around the corner, and this little monarch butterfly was emerging from its chrysalis. This was outside our kitchen window, but you couldn't see it till you walked around the outside. That's a very important moment in my life, and that's something I want to preserve. So, of course, you're going to want to make albums of your trips that you might make. And this Creative Memories doesn't do this, but we had a friend with an embossing machine, and she did that for us. Again, this is the old 12x12 album. So this was a trip that we took. We didn't take a lot of trips. We couldn't afford to take a lot of big trips, but we did take this trip to the Bahamas, and I did keep a journal. I kept the journal on my phone, but I kept a journal, and then I wrote the story about why we were going on this trip, why we chose to go to the Bahamas, and so forth. And that's what I documented here. And then some of the things that happened, things that you want to remember, okay, like how tired you are after diving, forgetting to wear sunscreen, things that we still talk about. Jenny and her brown things. My husband had told her to be careful of the fire coral. It was brown, so we start snorkeling, and the very first thing that she saw she and I took off snorkeling was brown things everywhere. So she freaked out, understandably, because her dad had terrorized her and said, "No, be careful of the brown things." So we still talk about that, but she was okay. It wasn't all fire coral. And here, the kids had those little disposable cameras, underwater cameras. So I have some of their pictures in here, and I mean, we got a lot of pictures of fins, but you know what? They were having a ball. So I wanted to preserve that because this is kind of the fish's view. So that's okay. That's a good thing. Now, I did a lot of journaling. As I said, I kept it on my phone, and then I transcribed it here and wrote it out. Of course, you don't have to do this, but we didn't do trips that often. So for me, it was wonderful. We had a lot of new experiences, and I didn't want to forget any. So I just put whatever day it was, and I changed the color so that it was easier to keep track of what day it was. Some days there were more things than others, but I know this is overwhelming, kind of, but I'm so glad I did it because now we can go back and relive that trip. This is part of who we are. This is what we did together. It was wonderful. So that's another thing that you want to preserve. Of course, you don't have to do all this, but you want to make sure that you do record some of those things you want to remember and you want your family to remember. Now, you may have seen my flip through my little 8x8 foodie album, and the only other thing that I would add to this, but it's kind of thick, so I don't think I'm going to add any more. But I want my family to remember how much I enjoyed playing with food and creating food art for them. So I made an album. It ended up to be chronological. I don't know how, but I don't know why, but I had the photographs this way. So I had this chronologically. The only other thing, if it wasn't so thick, I might add actual recipes, but I want them to remember how much I love cooking for them and doing food art for them. It truly is something that I adore doing. I'm very happy doing, and they all appreciate it too. I do the same thing for my croppers, and it's just fun. It's fun. It's one of my passions. Besides scrapbooking, I love to cook and I love to bake, and so I did that. So that's what I'm also obsessed with, Christmas trees, as you can see, and some of my cakes that I've done, and this way, these pictures are preserved, right? So they know what I love to do. But recipes. In my Christmas album, this was volume 2 of our Christmas album, and this has, I think, 6 years, in 1994 through 1999, and I made sure, I wrote a little story about where we were living and so forth, and in 1994, the kids and I started performing in the Ballet Florida Nutcracker, and we had rehearsals every weekend starting in October. So I always had a real Christmas tree, but I decided that year that this was the last year that we could have the real tree because it was time consuming. So I wrote about that, how I had to switch to an artificial tree, just to be sensible about it. But now here's the thing. I decided that I wanted to get some of my recipes in an album. And they are, I've set them up so that you can actually read them. I mean, I have them in a recipe book as well, a recipe folder, but I want them to know if it's not Christmas at our house if I don't make some of these recipes. If I don't make these cookies and things, to them it's not Christmas. So I wanted to make sure that I preserve them there. Okay. And then, of course, with your holidays, you're going to put things that are important to you. We always take I think here I have a picture Christmas morning before the kids got out there. I generally take a picture of them in front of the tree. All those traditions that my family did as well. This was our first house with a fireplace. That we were at the Kravis Center in West Palm Beach performing. So this is very much a part of our Christmas. So I made sure that I put this on here, behind the scenes, and then family coming and so forth. All the things that you want your family to remember. that are part of your traditions, that's what you want to include in your album. The Nutcracker was a huge part of our family and of our Christmas, so I made sure that I have a lot of that documented here. Because it's very important to us. It's part of our roots. Okay, let's look at the next one. Now, you may have heard me talk about my calendar album, my annual album. This is for 2022. It barely fits on this, but here's the thing. Our children have roots, and we gave them wings, and they use them. Our son joins the Navy. Our oldest joined the Navy, and what is the country he requests? Japan. So he was stationed in Japan for 4 years. But here's the thing about the roots and the wings. You give them the roots, and then they use those wings to fly home and see you. So not only when he was in the Navy, but he met a Lithuanian girl, and he was living in Lithuania for a while. So having an album that shows our Lithuanian family, it kind of unites everybody, and it shows how rich our roots are. We also have family in Portland, Oregon. So I have included that. Here's when they came to visit, which was wonderful. But in here I have very important moments for us. Simple things like sitting by the fire pit and having our coffee in the morning or at night, having dessert by the fire pit. Things that are important to me, important to them. That's what I want them to remember. They're cooking Lithuanian food for us. All of these things make us who we are. And that's what we want to have. Easter celebrations. We learned how to decorate Lithuanian Easter eggs. All of this was very, very important to us. So again, a calendar book was a great way for me to be able to keep my family that was all over the globe, to keep them united and to have one spot where I could have everyone's pictures. I was honored to get the Dwyer Award in 2013, and then we had a reunion. It was really nice. They do that every year. My gardens are very important to me. Look at my cucumber plants. And our New York son and daughter-in-law, they came to a visit. Of course, we have to go to the beach. All of these things are what make us who we are. Very important. A lot of puppies, because puppies are very important to us. My tap teacher, Melody, who now is a scrapbooker. Anything that is important to you, you want to make sure you document it, because you want your family to know how important they are and what is important as a family. I took a picture. This is silly. Put this picture. This cupboard is sad, as a sad reminder that Ross and Eric have moved to their own place. The cupboard is full. It's a sad thing for Mom. It's a sad thing. It was great for them that they got their own place. But in any case, they lived with us for a while when they first moved back to the U.S. I'm just happy they're here. My Creative Memories conference I went to. All of these things are part of who we are and what we do, and you want to document them. Oh yeah, hurricanes, trips, all of those things are important. That's what we do. Let's see, one more thing I want to show you. Oh, my scrapbookers, they're right here. The last thing I'm going to show you is kind of a quick way to preserve some of the pictures of people and things that are important to you. Now, I make big ABC albums, and I'll share those. I'll make a video and share those. But this, I was showing how you could use the little happy album size to make an ABC book. And what's fun about this is that you can, you find things that begin with those letters. I did label them because my daughter said before I label them, she didn't get it. So in any case, it's a great way for you to put in people and happenings that are important to you. And it's really quick. And this is something, if you have a grandchild or little kids at home, they could decorate this for you, help you find the stickers and the punches and so forth. We get our family from Portland. We have family trip to Kennedy Space Center. That was my daughter when she was dancing, and I was helping backstage. All these things that are super, oh, there's that little mouse again. All these things that are important. But this is an easy way. I haven't gotten a hummingbird come to my face yet, but I'm still working on it. Okay, my Thursday thoughts and so forth. Things that are my brother's retirement party and all of our family that was there. These are things that are very important to us, make us who we are, give us our roots so we can use our wings to fly away, but come back home. Well, thank you so much for watching. This really was just a food for thought, a food for Thursday thought. Not that you need justification for what you do, but sometimes it's good to realize how important it is that you are taking the time to be the family historian. On my letters that I wrote and so forth to my family and in some of our albums, I wrote, "Love, Mom, family historian." It's a job that we need to do that. It's a labor of love. We won't call it a job. It's a labor of love. And I encourage you to just move forward, to keep doing what you're doing, record those family histories. You want to enrich those roots because, your family uses their wings, they fly off, but when you're together, it just makes it even more wonderful. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, happy scrapbooking.